Hi guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Again, it's a duo type thing. I've been able to pull my extra busy husband to come for us to actually have a real talk. If you're new here, welcome to our channel, and please do also hit the subscribe button. My name is Chi Akoli, and this is my husband,
Senor Akoli.
And if you're a return subscriber, welcome back. And I really hope that what we're about to talk about today brings you some sense of, I would say comfort, but at least you're able to pick a thing or two. But we really want this to be as engaging as always. So if you do have suggestions or things that you're experiencing in your marriages as well, or perhaps you want to elaborate on what it is that we are talking about, please, would love if you can leave them in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please do well to hit the like button. Please do share, support us, subscribe. So on today's video, we're bearing it all. This is like, to me, I would like to call this real talk. We always talk about, you know, the good things, the fun things, the exciting things, but today we just really want to talk about the shockers in marriage, honing into our own experiences. So what has really shocked us to the point where we're actually asking, were we right about marriage? Were we right about marriage? So we're going to be sharing our reality. By no means are we experts. For how far we've been married, we feel like we've experienced it and obviously still experiencing. So thoughts far, we just want to come and share what we've experienced, give 2 cents to those who are looking to get married or probably engaged or about to get married, just so you can better set your expectations. And if your shock absorbers are not tightened, to screw it, whatever that means to you, to tighten it in readiness for this thing called marriage. Without further ado, should we get into it? We've basically bucketed this conversation into 5 major categories. Categories that we find are extremely crucial in this thing called marriage. 1 is adventure, 2 is conflicts, 3 finances, 4 intimacy, and 5 faith. So we'll start with adventures. So do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so as you already said, like, I think marriage is beautiful, but at the end of the day, there are things that you learn the hard way, or things that nobody ever talked to you about. Like, when you get into it, you figure it out yourself. So for me, you know, like before marriage, like being single or even dating, where you can, for social events, like where friends will call you for barbecue, they call you for this, they call you for that, and you're able to just say, okay, don't worry. Like when the phone call comes through, there, even sometimes guys call you at 9 and at 8. I'm at here. Do you want to join? How you were able to just jump into your dress and then you get going. But coming into marriage, and more particularly having kids, it's never the same. You know, you have responsibilities as a father, you have responsibilities as a mother, responsibility as a husband and as a wife. So you can imagine with all these responsibilities, and more particularly even the kids, you know, just getting up one night and spontaneously jumping out to go for anything like that. It's not, you don't find yourself in those rhythm again. Like, you have to always plan these things in advance. And even with that, my little one, like this, like, I'm going for social events and she wants to go with me. Like, oh, can you stay back home and let daddy go and come back? She's like, no, daddy, I'm going with you on this one. So, you know, these are all things that no one really prepares you for. You come into it and, you know, you have to find a balance on how you're able to manage some of these things.
Makes sense. And really, to add to what he's saying, is there are times where, in that instance, where you'd be like, okay, let's take her then. So what I've come to learn is that we're having to intentionally choose what sort of events is ideal for us. For instance, whenever we get events or get invited for stuff, the first thing we'd always ask is it baby friendly? Is it child friendly? And this is something we would never have had to ask anybody. And obviously the answer is pretty obvious when, if it's not child friendly, then we're definitely not going, especially in this part of the world. I mean, we could better manage this kind of issues if we're back home where we have a community, we have our parents. So in those instances, when you have like a pool of support, it's always easier to say, okay, I'll drop my baby with mom and then I'll head out for this. Even corporate events, that there are times where we cannot even attend just our company's end of year party. Like even last year, I couldn't attend the end of year party because my child wasn't at daycare. It was around holiday season and no one was going to take. My husband also had his holiday party right around the same day and the same time. So at that point, we had to choose, okay, who was going to go and who was going to come back. We were even contemplating, okay, should I go for half an hour and then come back? And then it was just going to be chaotic. And so I had to just give it up, right? So it's the shocker for me where, okay, now I'm not able to attend events. That's okay. Now we're even segregating the kind of events that we're attending. Is it child friendly? And even when we go for the child friendly ones, our child will end up just running around playing and maybe not even loving the environment, and would have to just cut the time short just so we can run back home and be with them, right? So that was a shocker, just to add to what he's saying. Another one was with regards to travel. I remember when we were dating and even leading up to our marriage, like we could spontaneously, I mean, we both had jobs where we travel every time. We even do long work trips in a different country, right? So we end up traveling a lot. And also in instances where perhaps we're stressed and we want to say, okay, let's do a weekend in, let's just say Budapest, and then we'll just book our tickets and boom, we're in Budapest, and then we're doing our thing and then we're back. Those things don't happen now. It was a shocker for me. In fact, when we got married, I thought, oh, this we can do it now. It's nothing now. We'll just carry our kids. Charlie, even with carrying your kids for a trip, it needs proper planning. Proper in the sense that you have to start planning. It's not like spontaneous anymore. You have to start planning 2 months in advance, 3 months in advance. And then as you're approaching the day, you have to pack. You're not just packing for yourself. You're not just packing for your husband, you're packing for your children, right? Making sure, because with us, if we forget, let's say, a toothbrush, we can do without it. Or if we forget something, a clothes, we can supplement. But with kids, if you forget that type of food, especially with my daughter, who's specific with the kind of food she eats, you forget it, done. The trip is pretty much ended, because obviously you're not gonna have fun, right? So that's kind of it for me when it comes to travel. We're limited by the amount of adventurous or spontaneous travel that we can do. Everything takes planning, long days of planning. He needs to figure out, okay, when does he get off work? We need to align on making sure that our leave days are in sync, where he gets approved for a certain leave day and I get approved for that same leave day, and things like that. So I mean, that was a super shocker for me. All right, so basically for us, I feel like how we've been able to better navigate would be, and we're still, I mean, it's still a learning process, right? Is planning. So we're now plan managers in our rights, time managers in our rights, project managers, because traveling to us now is like a project. So we're able to plan, whether it is when are we booking the flight, when are we taking time off, when are we requesting for leave, when are we giving notification from our kids' school, when are we going shopping from a financial perspective, when are we sort of budgeting, or when do we start to save, and yada yada yada. So all those things, time management is a key factor, planning is a key factor, communication, like alignment, everything has to be aligned, right? That's also a key factor. With regards to social activity, it's really tit for tat. Like for instance, the end of year party example I gave, my husband just started the job and he wasn't there for like up to a year. For me, I had been to my company's previous end of year party, so it just made sense to just give him that opportunity to go for the end of year party. So kind of balancing the needs and wants and just making sure everybody is happy at the end of the day. All right, moving on to the next point, conflicts. Now this is, I won't say my favorite because I don't like conflict, but why I would say this is key for me to talk about is because I don't feel like married couples talk about this a lot, because this is something that is extremely inevitable in marriage. However way social media tries to paint marriage as perfect, every marriage has conflict. Now, how do we manage conflicts? Like, what sort of conflict? Let's even start with what sort of conflicts do we face?
There are a lot of conflicts that arise, right? Even twins, right? Even twins would have, even we have conflicts within ourselves sometimes on certain things we want to do, and eventually, so that conflict would always exist. But your point is, how we manage it can arise from a lot of situations, right? It could be financial. Some people have conflict around their finances and all that. But for us, I think it's at the beginning was more so even aligning on the number of kids you want to have, with some slight cultural differences on how do we want to bring up our kids, right? Aside the sharing the same faith and all that, but there's always that cultural element to it on how you want to raise your child. Is it disciplining the child, which approach works and which approach may not work. So these are even some of the things that like bring little conflicts here and there. It could also be as little as even house chores sometimes. This brings little conflict here and there. It comes in a lot of ways. When you're married, it could be the most little thing and even the most highest, especially when kids are involved, right? For instance, like when you have a kid, raising up the kid, making key decisions about the kids, based on our personal experiences or growing up, what we may have gone through here, and it comes with a lot of things. My little girl like this, I am not a big fan of having to do this hair stuff for kids, like braiding and the stress they go through and all that. So these things sometimes bring conflicts, right? And it's happened to us on a number of occasions. So typically for me, I'm like, I don't want my little girl to go through that. But the fancy hairstyle, and you see beautiful out there, but the things what goes into it, the time and even the discomfort it creates for the little girl are things that for me it's very uncomfortable, even for me personally. But I understand that it has to be done, and to make her look beautiful and fancy, to grow her hair and all that. So that's one thing that really brought a little bit of conflict, but again, we've been able to find a work around it. But these are things that you don't really foresee. Even in terms of finances, conflicts can arise here and there. Even making decisions on what do we need to invest in, like for the home, what do we need to invest in for the future. Conflicting views that bring conflict here and there. She's risk adverse. For me, I like to take reasonable risk in that sense. So sometimes I feel, let's go in for this. She's like, no, we can't, it's too risky. And I'm like, no, we need it, it has to be done. So these kind of things create conflicts here and there. And we had to, like when we're dating before marriage, everything was all beautiful. Once we are like, oh yeah, let me take care of this. We didn't have these decisions to make collectively at that point, though we kind of seek each other's opinion and guidance or like advice on a lot of these things. But when it comes to the practicality of it in the marriage, it brings conflict most of the time. Like even toys, I know there's been conflict around toys. Like I'm not big on buying toys every time, but she sees a toy, she sees this, she's like, oh, I think they need it, let's get it. I'm like, I'm always like, yeah, but there is the 1,001 of them in the house that they haven't really used, or they used it once and they just put it away. And I am thinking more of, okay, it's another investment we are going to do. She's more thinking of, but this is something that the baby will love. And I'm like, no, but we can't do it. She's like, yeah, but we need it for the. So these are all things that bring like conflict into the home. Then it seems very trivial, but it created a lot of issues at the end of the day. It's not managed here.
And let's even talk about gender-based roles and things like that, right? Prior, in fact, during my time, and I'm sure it's the same for him, the ladies are, in fact, specific to me, like if someone is cooking in the house, or if we visit someone, if my mom is cooking, I dare not be in the kitchen with her. Dad would be like, what are you doing here? Move to the kitchen. Meanwhile, my brothers would be playing game or doing whatever they're doing, and nothing happens. My brothers would eat and they would leave the plate. I have to go and wash it and all that stuff. Like it was more, everything had to be the women to do, and we couldn't complain. Even if we complained, we'd be like, don't you know you're a girl? It was almost like getting us ready. Is that what you do in your husband's house? Kind of thing. And so as we're evolving, especially with marriages in diaspora here, when you don't have help, how are men surviving? Especially even with men being in school. Let's not even talk about marriages. We send our kids abroad to study. Living alone, what? Are they going to be buying food outside? Wouldn't they at least know the basic skill of cleaning after them and things like that? So one thing I knew going into marriage was that I needed to train both genders the same, wherein my daughter is learning to cook, my boy is learning to cook. He's learning to clean, then everyone's learning it together to create that independence and to give that idea that there's no gender-based anything. It's more so being independent enough to do what you need to do without necessarily relying on another person. And so coming into so that was clear cut for me. In fact, I had that vision and I was like proper, like hinged on it. Coming into the marriage, my husband obviously had a different opinion in terms of, hey,
which I still do have.
Which he still does, exactly. It's like, what, the boy doesn't have anything to do in the kitchen. Why does he need to learn? He doesn't need to, I mean, his wife will cook for him and blah, blah, blah.
When he grows up, he makes a personal choice to whether he wants to do it or not.
And I'm still of the opinion, it's like, okay, yeah, he learns it, so it's up to him whether he wants to use it or not. Either way, no skill is lost. No skill is a lost skill, right? Anyway, these are conflicts. And I never expected, because I thought in my head that, oh, this is so, for me, and again, I could be narrow-minded here. It's like, this is very clear. Like, why is he even thinking different? Because obviously he has gone through the walls of university and stuff, and he has had to manage on his own. In fact, he even knows how to clean now. He's starting to learn how to clean and how to be independent and things like that.
You make the choice and you get there.
Exactly. So it's like, so why shouldn't we, like, we're not in those days anymore. We're evolving, you know. Right now, everybody has to be independent in some way or another. So that, as little as that may sound, that is a conflict that I never thought would ever happen. And like he said, it's still something that we're dealing with. But I do know, I mean, when it comes to him, obviously, I know that when I leave the child with him, maybe when I travel for work and stuff, I know Asha is definitely not going to be entering the kitchen or doing anything culinary or anything. But I know that when I'm around with him, I'll have to sort of incorporate that. So it's just really learning and balancing. For me, it's like, okay, how do we marry both our wants and needs to make sure that we're dubbing down the conflicts and creating a loving home for our kids, right? So that's kind of like a reality, like a real-time example. I don't know if you guys are going through it as well, especially the ladies, but it's definitely something I feel like in fact, I even feel like my boy child should even know more than my girl child. But anyway, we'll leave that chat for another day. Now, moving on, I feel like he has said it all. Financial issues can breed conflicts, even children, raising children, the decisions with regards. He talked about the toys. In fact, it's beyond toys. Like, I go out and I'm buying things for my child, like I'm buying clothes and stuff, and to him, they don't need it. But then there's always a need for it eventually. There are times where, children run out of clothes quite quickly, and we're out of what to wear, and he's more spontaneous. Okay, let's go buy it. But for me, I plan ahead. I'm like, let's buy it. This is a winter clothing. Let's buy. Winter is coming. Oh, this is summer
winter
clothing.
May never come.
Winter always comes. We're in Canada. Okay, and then summer is coming. Oh, let's prep for summer, because you won't always have liquid cash all the time to do.
We can use last year's summer clothes.
Yeah, which they've outgrown. So
right? These things for me, like again, and how do we navigate these things? It's trying to, for me, key things are try to be objective, like
right,
and also try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and just kind of think along the lines you're thinking. So
and be more open-minded.
Exactly, be open-minded.
I've been narrow-minded all along, that I failed to kind of see initially, like in the first few years of our marriage. I failed to really like come to an understanding of, okay, what's he like, what is his point of view? But now, as we go on, as we're growing, we're now starting to say, okay, that makes sense from your point of view. Mine also makes sense. Okay, how do we marry the two and meet each other halfway? Simply put.
And sometimes the conflict really just brings, like, in the midst of those things, you find solutions, like in terms of buying toys and these things, right? You make provisions for all these expenses, but again, if we have a personal decision that whatever expense we are making above and beyond what we have budgeted for, the only question to be asked is, where do we get that money from to take care of that excesses? If we're able to establish that and we both agree on, okay, this is where this is going to come from and that is how we manage it, then it makes a sound decision. But if, for instance, we go out there, we see something fancy, or we want to do some financial commitment, and we ask the question, where is the money coming from? And Yeah,
They're
looking
like,
into each other's face for 1 to 3 minutes. You guys forget about that thing and let's go home. Before then, it was always like, oh, we need it. I don't think we need it, but having that conversation and having the same understanding that, well, it's about us and how we're able to get it done. So,
and it also helps us think outside the box. Creativity, for instance, now we've learned that, okay, I don't necessarily have to buy new toys for productivity anymore. I can hide. So for instance, if I buy toy A and B today, I can introduce toy A with them, do the functional play, hide toy B, and then maybe a week later I can then reintroduce toy B, if that makes sense. So kind of hiding and bringing out once at a time, because kids get over their toys in split seconds. My kids, you buy a toy, they look at it, play with it, explore, and then it's like on to the next one. So beyond that, my habit, I'm learning now, like with wanting to buy them productivity toys, I'm now learning to say, okay, let's hide this, let them get over it. Once they're over this one, we swap it with the previous one, and it works like magic because they're like, oh, it's something new, right? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So moving on to the next key topic is intimacy, and that one is dear to me because, come on, after everything that we've mentioned, we married each other for a reason. And I remember in our marriage course, what our counselor told us was, we're not marrying to have kids. We're not marrying because we're lonely or we're looking for companion. We're marrying because we truly enjoy being with one another, and we want to spend like our time or majority of our time together, whatever that might be, right? And so in the midst of having kids, we tend to lose that. We're like, oh, the focus is the kids. Every decision is like revolving around the kids, forgetting that, okay, he's human, he has needs, I'm human, I have needs. I still have like that baby in me where I want to like Netflix and chill. I want to play, I want to travel. He wants to like do his guy things. He wants to hang out with his friends and stuff. So baby aside. And that's why this date night thing, most people can say it's cliche, but I find it really critical, and I'm sure he'll tell you that I always, like, it's something I don't joke with. He's a bit more relaxed about it, because for him it's like, oh, when we are sitting here together, it's date night. No, because the kids are still somewhere running around distracting us, right? So it's being intentional about quality time. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or exotic. Date nights can be, okay, when we've put the kids up, let's get popcorn, let's get juice, let's sit and let's watch a movie that we like. I'm good with that. I always ask him for that, but for him, he's always thinking, oh, does this work? I've not sent that email. Oh, let me just quickly go up and send that email. Then I'll come back. Oh, I want to check. Like, it's that bad that we've had to even set cameras in our baby's room just to keep track of them from wherever we are, because then if we're downstairs and they're upstairs, our minds will always, hey, let's go check if the babies are awake and things like that. So we've had to invest in cameras and stuff so that we can actually keep track of them while still Netflix and chilling and things like that. So, like, for instance, Valentine is coming or Valentine is here. Okay, what can we do? I mean, of course, everyone will say every day is Valentine, but then I think I still get excited with wanting to celebrate those days, as even when I was single. When I was single, I would always be looking forward to Valentine. Whether there's boyfriend or not, I still celebrate with my friends or with my family, right? So I'm still that baby at heart where I'm still looking forward to like Valentine. Oh, and I was telling him the other day, oh, should we do a movie? And the question was like, oh, where do we keep the kids? And I was like, wah, wah. So now we're starting to plan ahead. Okay, how do we do? Maybe we can keep our child in daycare and then go do the movie during that time and things like that. So just basically communicating the wants and needs is critical, because the other person might not actually see it the way you see it. Also, making sure that their needs are prioritized, not, hey, wait, let me feed this, oh, let me do this, oh, no, we have to. Oftentimes he'd be like, oh, let's watch a movie. Like, I'm tired, I want to sleep. Tomorrow morning I have this call at 9. Once I hear that, it's like, I'm off. It's But then again, it's like, okay, yeah, you have a 9 o'clock, we can do a 30 minutes movie and then we'll continue it tomorrow or something like that, right? It's just meeting each other halfway. No matter how difficult it is, just sacrificing, not every time, but in moments that you can, just sacrificing your sleep time just to make sure you're spending time. And spending time doesn't have to be all like, oh, intercourse related and stuff. It can be actually having conversations, like real conversations about, okay, it could be where are we going for vacation this year? How can we start saving? Are we spending a lot? It could even be relooking at our finances. Okay, what is working? Have I been communicating a bit strongly? Is there anything that I've done maybe throughout the week that you don't like? Yada yada yada. You know, things like that. Because oftentimes because we're together so much, we forget the things that take one another out. And because of the busy lifestyle, you do it and then you move on. But then sometimes they'll call you back to be like, okay, this thing you did or you said the other day wasn't nice, or like, oh, sorry about that. Case closed. So communication, intentionality about quality time, whatever that is. Some people have gifts or giving as a 5 love languages. Some people have acts of giving, quality time. Some people have words of affirmation and things like that. So learning what your partner is more inclined to. Me, for my 5 languages, I think I have about 2 or 3 of those 5. So it's learning all of them and just, hitting it as it should be. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, conflicts were really around going out there for your date night where you had to carry the kids because you've got no choice, and you get to those places, your food is ready. When things are getting sweeter, then the little one starts crying uncontrollably. You put her in the stroller, no way, I want to come out, I want to go home, and then everything just has to end. Sometimes you package the food and bring it back home. So that kept happening over time, and she still insists, let's go out there. And I'm like, the quality is no longer there. So what is the point in going? Like, at this point, I don't want us to, I don't want to be going for these things again. But she feels like, oh, even being out there and we find a way to manage the kids. So these were some of the conflicts that we're having, and being able to create time for ourselves, and all that. But to her point, we're finding a working solution on how we can get to work.
Making sure no kids.
Exactly, because if you go with the kids, it defeats the purpose, and we had no one to leave the kids with. Even going to the movies, we couldn't even do that. So we had to be going during the course of the day, when the little one is going to school, especially on Fridays where she's gone to daycare, and we are able to make some time during the day to go for an hour or two to go watch the movie, or to go out there and even just have a good meal without any stress, But as they begin to grow up a little bit, you're able to find a way to make that work and have an understanding between yourselves on how to make this. Even being at home, sometimes the little girl stays up in the evening, after all the day's work, I get super tired, and she's like, let's watch a movie, and 2 minutes into the movie I sleep off, and she's like, why are you sleeping? We need to watch a movie together. And I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. These are all things that were bringing a lot of conflict. But again, how do we carefully plan the things that would eventually help? Okay, if work is stressful, okay, then can we move the movies into the weekend when the little one sleeps? Maybe we put her to sleep early on Saturdays, so we've been able to find that really help kind of navigate that as well.
Cool. All right, last and most important, in my opinion, is faith. Now,
so for faith, right, I don't think there was a great deal of conflict when it comes to faith. I think the only thing was really around we're all Christians, so it's just how the approach to which we go about our worship. But
I think there was initially. Now, no.
I'm coming to the point where I'm talking about we are Christians, so there wasn't a vast difference between our faith. So our conflict was majorly very minor around, okay, we went to Catholic church, practicing as a Catholic versus taking our kids to the Protestant churches and all that.
And to give you context, guys, he is Protestant I Catholic. I was born Catholic. And that was also a conversation we had. Don't think we didn't have it before getting married, right? We definitely did. And because we're pretty much liberal with it's not like, oh, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, Catholic, staunch, this, that. I mean, at the end of the day, what was important to me was the person I was marrying and the fact that, okay, we're Christians, we believe in one God and things like that. So that was critical to me. As long as he has the fear of God, that's paramount. And so I wasn't even forced, like we didn't even get married typically, like from my hometown, our culture is when he's coming to marry me, he has to marry me in my church before officially taking me to his church. But that was never the case. We actually had our pastor officiate our wedding, and it was like an outdoor wedding, and so it wasn't even in any church. So that kind of set the stage of kind of where I thought, okay, our marriage will be headed in terms of there will be no conflicts. It's trying to be like, you do you, and at the end of the day, we're raising our kids in the love and knowledge of Christ. That's all that mattered. But in the first year of marriage, especially being in Ghana, and when we're talking Protestant, we're not just talking specific Protestants. We're talking about he attends GEC, and there's this strong commitment to GEC. And so while we were in Ghana after marriage, we had to be going to GEC. And I struggled a lot with understanding. In fact, honestly, I wasn't understanding what was being preached. So I basically would just be going to church just to follow him to church. Why? Because majority of, and in Ghana now, they mostly would speak their language, the local dialect. In this case was the Ewe, from the Voltarians would know. So in churches, they were speaking Ewe, and I was lost. So at some point I'd be like, what did he say? Oh, are we done with? And I was also struggling to even follow with the rhythm. Catholics now, people say, oh, we kneel down like a lot, oh, we stand up, oh, we do this. And for them it was like something different. Oh, Bible study this, oh, preaching that, oh, this praise and worship time. So it took a lot to learn and acclimatize myself. Luckily though, when I was in school, in high school, I attended Protestant services, so I knew a thing or two. But going into the church and really experiencing, in fact, the Ewe speaking was the highlight for me. Like, I was super low. You know how you go to church and you're just looking. In fact, when it was even time for offering, I'll be looking at him. It's like, he'd be like, it's time for offering, and then like they take the money. So I was super lost, but I was just going okay. But at a point, and vice versa. In fact, I remember when I took him to a Catholic church, and funny enough, we have a Catholic church just around the corner. He he was sleeping, nodding off the entire time, and he basically told me that I don't understand what he's saying, and because the Catholic church, the preaching is like quick, less than 30 minutes, they're done. It was shocking to him, like, what, that was done? And I'm like, yeah.
I did in a Catholic school anyway.
Exactly.
I did my secondary
school.
So
he knew that.
I knew a little bit of the whole Catholic practice, but with the Protestant, like the praise and worship where you go, you people dance and your shoes, the heels of your shoes will wear out and all those things, So that for me was some part of the services that I did. And I think one thing that also just took me away a bit was, when we went to secondary school, it was a must. They forced it down your throat.
Oh yeah.
You have to go to mass. You have to recite Angelus even if you don't want to. So at that point, it felt like a punishment, sort of, So that thing like still weighed on me a bit. But I think that was one of the easiest of the conflict we were able to manage, because at the end of the day, we're like, it's about God, it's about Christ.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
So moving now, fast forward to, so that was my experience in Ghana. Now fast forwarding to moving to Canada now. There isn't any GEC here. In fact, we've been looking
but you eventually
GEC. I need to come to Canada. Oh, I eventually did, of course.
Did. And it was even what was helping you learn Ewe as well, even the Ewe songs.
Oh, and we decided to go to a church that actually translated.
Yes, we were going to a church. And we're also going for the English service.
Right.
So they had the English service and they had the local language one later in the day, which we were going for before. So we had to move things around.
I had to obviously start going a little earlier just to catch the English one. But again, these are sacrifices you just have to make for the greater goal, right? So moving here, there wasn't GEC, and so we're like, okay, there was a Catholic church a stone throw away, in fact a walkable distance, and then there is a Redeemed church, and it just made sense to, okay, let's explore. So again, it's, are we understanding each other's needs. I like the fact that he was able to come to my church and sort of experience that. In fact, right now, if for convenience sake, if we're not able to meet, maybe going to, I can take the kids, we can go to the Catholic church and, you know, everything's good. And yeah, vice versa. So it's, I feel like at the end of the day, it's one God, irrespective of where you worship. It's one God. And I think that notion has helped us in kind of building our faith. Also, even while we're home, making sure we pray together, share the word, talk about the word. And that's, you know, one of the reasons we've decided to bring it to your screens. If you have missed our verse of the day, please do well to check it out. We do verse of the days on a weekly basis, just basically sharing our understanding of the word of God and breaking it down into relatable terms that people can relate to. So that's kind of like something we do to kind of fulfill our obligations with spreading the word or propagating the word of God as Christians, right? So again, Catholic, Protestant, yeah, initially was a conflict, but you know, just I think understanding what the goal is, being able to merge our wants and needs, communication. You know, you might say that's cliche, but it's extremely important. You cannot like underestimate it in any way. You cannot, because you might be doing something and you think, oh, it's the right thing, but from his perspective, that's bad. There are certain things I could say in Nigeria. Are you okay? It's like, it's just like, oh, are you all right? That kind of thing. Like the British would say, oh, you're right. But then for him, it could be like an insult. It's like asking if you're cuckoo or something like that. So again, perspective, mindsets come into play, and that's where communication hashes, breaks down, and then removes.
So for me, in summary, I think going into marriage and what I've learned, like, you don't really need to have, people would say you don't need a perfect person. I wouldn't say that, but what I would say is that if you find that person that you can deal with, or you can not manage, but you come to an understanding on as regards to those weaknesses, that in itself is more than enough, right? Because those are the moments that bring you guys to the lowest. And how are you able to pick yourself up if at that point you guys cannot manage that little conflict here and there?
So let me ask you this: do you think love is enough? Going back to the initial theme of this conversation, were we right about that? Like, do you think love is enough? Because you're saying, marry someone who you can deal with. So then,
no, not deal with. I mean, like, the negatives, their weaknesses are things you can deal with, right, or you can be able to find a solution together.
Right.
In finding a solution together means somebody has to be teachable. Like, I may have my weaknesses, those conflicts may arise, but are we ready to learn?
Yeah.
If we can, for instance, if, as she said, if you're not open-minded, being open-minded and being ready to learn is the first steps to, like, how you're able to manage those conflicts. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, that is, if I'm not ready to learn, that conflict is there forever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if I'm not ready to be open-minded and also try to empathize with people and understand their sense of reasoning, that element is still going to be there. So that's what I'm saying, like, love, if you love somebody, you also love those imperfect moments, right? But loving those imperfect moments, it's either you guys decide you want to compromise, or you want to kind of overlook it, which is not the greatest. So those are the things that, for me, in summary, like, it's very fundamental into managing that. And putting the kids dynamics into it as well. I would say it wasn't just about marrying a partner or marrying somebody. And that's why when you ask about love, it goes beyond love. You need to look out for, are you marrying someone who will be a mother and a father? I said this to someone last time, that you also, kids bring a lot of conflict. And if you don't really understand what it takes to be a father and what it takes to be a mother, if you marry just a wife and a husband, it will break your home. Yeah. Like, those elements are missing. It creates a lot of chaos in the marriage as well. It creates, like, problems, because if you are a great wife, as we talked a lot about kids here and there.
you can be a great wife, you can be a great husband, but if you are, the father element is not there, the mother element is not there, the conflict that will arise from that will be very extreme, that can easily break.
In that light, but differently, because there's no textbook or policy with regards, okay, how to be a better mom or how to be a good mom or good dad.
Yes,
like, this is our first marriage, this is our first children, and but I feel like what you're trying to say is togetherness, in terms of making sure that, okay, whatever decision we make, we're taking it as a team. So it's beyond just mother and father, it's parenthood, it's being a union. Because I tell you, one of the conflicts we've experienced is, for instance, our baby wants, let's just say juice, something sugary, or candy. And I know candy is sugary. I don't want to give her candy. We all know what sugar does to the kids. And then he's like, well, it doesn't hurt. Let's give her, like, you know, just so she can be happy. He would say yes to baby, and then I will say no. Then I will be the bad cop, and then, you know, we start to fight, and then baby resents mommy, and then things like that. This is just an example, but this can happen, and I've seen it happen with us, where we can be like, oh, baby can come to us and, oh, daddy, I want chocolate, and he's like, yeah, you can have chocolate. Meanwhile, she had already come to me, and I said, no, you can't have chocolate. So going forward, all she'll need to do is, oh, I'm not going to be asking mommy again because mommy's like a killjoy. I'm going to be asking my best daddy because daddy's going to give me. And again, that breeds content in terms of, okay, I hate mommy, I like daddy. If I want this, this is who I go. Because kids unintentionally tend to manipulate.
It's not unintentionally.
Yeah.
They're very aware of it.
Right. So if we let that, and again, that's what it takes me back to, like, togetherness. Yes, co-parenting, everybody talks about co-parenting. That is key, even while being married. Single people or people who decide to divorce, they still co-parent. There's that essence to it where, yeah, it's not just being a good mom, because you can be a good mom all you want, but if there's no alignment, it's not going to work. That's why I say kids can break a marriage. And so that's how we've learned to manage that conflict. It's like, okay, my baby will ask for chocolate, I'll be like, saying, FYI, she asked for chocolate, I said no, please say no. And then he'd be like, even though he doesn't want to say no, he'd be like, well, mommy said no, so it's no chocolate, or no, we're not having chocolate today, tomorrow we'll have chocolate. So that even if she goes,
find a creative way to
exactly
say, like, oh, mommy is saying no chocolate, maybe I want chocolate, and I'll be like, oh, mommy asked you to go read that book, or mommy asked you to bring this, then you refuse to. Maybe when you do, mommy might change her mind. So it's a way to even get the kid to, like, learn certain values and get to do certain things. But at the end of the day, it's still you guys, like, trying to co-parent and find a solution that way. So there's nothing cast in stone. You learn as you go, but just be sure that you brace yourself, you prepare yourself for those. It's a roller coaster. Like, when you're on the roller coaster and it goes up, you are like, oh, fly high. When it comes down, you see the intensity you feel within your system and all the vibrations. So just brace yourself and sort of tighten your belts and be sure that when those moments come, you're able to navigate. And someone said to me before that, look, if you're a manager in the office, you manage people, you deliver numbers, they give you all the awards, and you can't manage your home, then what kind of manager are you? Again, just being able to, like, understand that even managing in the workspace is totally different from even managing at home. So
absolutely. So to answer the theme of today's discussion is, were we right about marriage? For me, I was right. I just didn't know that there would be curveballs, and however those curveballs are, like, I won't say true north, are like what has even strengthened us in this thing we call marriage. And so yes, in a way I would say we're right about marriage, but please expect the curveballs and brace yourself in togetherness, in love, in faith, in alignment, that you will overcome whatever the true.
For me, I'll say yes, but just be sure that it's a lot of work, like
mental, physical, emotional.
It's a lot of work, and if you don't put work to it, I feel it's a full-time job as well. You need to dedicate time. You need to put in a lot of work. You need to be sure that just like you go to the office and you know you have to do this and this to deliver on your results and all that. Like, it takes a lot of efforts. It takes a lot of intentionality, and also like every day waking up to know that, well, if this has to be successful, if this has to work, you have to put in the work. Action, I take you to science always. Action and reaction are equal opposites. So whatever, so whatever you put into it is what it brings. If you feel like, oh, conflict, let it keep going. One day to catch up with you, and that's the end of the story. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's a great experience, but yeah, keep working at it.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I really hope that you picked a thing or two. I really hope by sharing our experiences, it's relatable to you. And if you feel that there are more that I guess we have, because honestly, we're just giving examples. We haven't scratched the surface. And yes, marriages are not rosy. So this is really us sharing that, you know, there are challenges and really just how to navigate. So please do want to leave comments in the comment section if you enjoyed this video, and if you want more, please let us know. Please hit the like button, please share, please cascade, please share to a friend. You never know, you might be helping someone might need this, someone might actually want to really get people's perspectives. And yeah, thank you so much, Seni, for the 2 cents and all that. So take good care, you guys, and do have a blessed day.
Bye now.